Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good, sir. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay.
It must be already very hot in Kanpur.
Yeah, it is. It is very hot outside.
I've been there once, sometimes in April, the first time I visited to conduct a workshop. That's way back in 2007.
Okay.
And after that, I was there as a visiting for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, I was there after the summers. I was there from July, August, September, October, November, December. These 6 months.
Yeah, that is quite pleasant time. But
Oh, very pleasant. I enjoyed the rain. I enjoyed the monsoon.
It's around the mountain, monsoon, it is of course good. And the
Monsoon,
greenery of the campus is nice altogether.
Now it's getting very terrible.
Yeah, very slowly it's going up.
I know, because 3rd week of April, I'll be coming very close to Kanpur. That is, I'm coming to Delhi. So I know what I will have to bear.
Yeah,
3rd week of April. And all okay? All okay at Kanpur?
Yeah, all good here, sir.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, we are live. So let the students join. So, good afternoon, everybody. I hope I'm audible. Now, this particular course, which is on modern Indian art, and the course which has tried to trace the history, development, and evolution of modern Indian art from its colonial period till the present time as much as possible. In this way, the course has tried to trace the evolution and developments taking place in art practice, but also, if you have noticed carefully, it has tried to bring your attention to a couple of things. Number one, how, along with the change in the socio-political history, that is the broader historical changes taking place right from the colonial period, how art itself has always been subject to change, in the sense art always felt free to come up with new ideas, innovations, and new creative concepts. And once you have gone through the entire course comprising 20 lectures, I'm sure you have also noticed something that I have tried to highlight, that along with the changes taking place in the realm of idea, concept, subject matter, how artists have increasingly become very, very innovative, in the sense that they have always tried to explore the possibilities of new material, medium, and techniques of executing art. In other words, there was a time in the early phase of modern Indian art, when we were still under the control of the British power, that most of the artists, in terms of their artworks, were dependent on, if it was painting, mostly either water-based color. Then, due to the influence of the European art practice, we picked up oil painting, and we also have innumerable examples of drawings done with pencil or pen or brush, so and so. Nothing beyond that. Similarly, the history of modern sculpture, as far as its early phase is concerned, the materials, no matter how brilliant the sculptures were, the materials, the mediums were more or less limited to, let's say, bronze, mostly stone sculptures, and sometimes, but keeping the durability of the sculpture as an object itself. Most of the sculptors wanted to have the sculptures done in bronze, stone, sometimes wood carving. But 1947, we know that became a kind of very, very important point of departure, not only in the political history of India, but also in the cultural history of India. This is clearly visible. After the independence, like we see happening in many other sectors of cultural activities, in music, in film, in theater, in literature, so on and so forth, photography, very importantly. Similarly, in fine arts, we see a tremendous opening, the possibilities of encountering and embracing, accommodating new forms of art, new mediums, new materials, new ideas, become a kind of almost a very important salient feature of post-independent modern Indian art. And very importantly, until 1947, that is till independence happened, a large number of Indian artists were mostly devoted to the nationalist cause. Would help the nationalist ideas, the war of independence against the British, against the colonial power, to receive that cultural impetus through art, music, literature, etc. So art played a very important role, visual arts. The way artists, visual artists, contributed to the Swadeshi cause, nationalist cause, in various ways. We see a number of paintings done by people like Rabindranath Tagore and others. And the followers of Rabindranath Tagore, even Shantiniketan artists, deliberately and consciously developed a style of painting, developed a language of painting, which clearly declared a protest against the European language, European medium, which Indian art identified as a colonial hegemony, a pressure coming from the colonial power. So we needed to oppose that. And they did oppose that. And many of these artists came up with brilliant artworks, including Jamini Rai. Before that, we have Amrita Shergill. We must not forget Raja Ravi Verma, Abanindranath Tagore, then Nandalal Bose and Shantiniketan, many of them throughout India. They seriously considered this aspect, that art is not independent of the social and political scenario. Art should not only stand by the cause, the socio-political cause, but it should also be able to create forms and ideas and visual experiences that might help people to imagine a new independent India. Now that in 1947, independence itself happened. So that kind of Swadeshi and very pro-Indian, anti-British art was not necessary anymore. So what did the artists do? Very interestingly, artists, of course, not exactly imitating, but they become a little more open to the influences of the modern Western art, mostly modern European art. And that definitely provided a new conceptual platform, a thought, an intellectual drive, and a creative push to the artists to think beyond, beyond its nationalist or the Bengal school type of paintings and art. Yes, I'm coming to the question, but before that, the last point that I wanted to make, which you must have noticed during this course, that along with materials, medium, subject matters, the ideas of art, concepts of art, etc., technique, style, of course, this has happened all over the world. Nothing very, very special of India, but it also happened in India. That is, I'm talking about the location of art, why you are making this art, for whom you are doing this art. In the traditional period, it was mostly the kings and the religious institutions for which you were making the art. During the colonial period, the British, rich and powerful people were our consumers, in a sense, they were our clients. Now we have galleries, now we have new collectors, and very importantly, what is generally known as public art, open air sculptures, open air installations. So art finding its new locations in society also became a very important feature, along with, if you remember in one of the episodes, I have highlighted how art discussions, art publications, art magazines, art criticism played a very important role in shaping the history of modern Indian art. Now, let me take the question which has come. participant, Mr. Urmibroto Bandyopadhyay, has posted the following in YouTube chat. I like Rajasthani miniature painting. Yes, Rajasthani miniature painting is one of the, not only a very significant part of the history of Indian art, Indian painting, but it is also something that embodies, reflects the medieval culture, particularly the Rajput culture from the 16th century, 16th, 17th, 18th, even 19th century, we have Rajasthani paintings. And very importantly, the Rajasthani paintings, they also reflect a very important aspect of the medieval Indian culture, that is the Bhakti culture. That is also something very important, and it reflects not just a pictorial idea, but it reflects a lot of cultural ideas related to Bhakti literature, Bhakti music, and all that. And really speaking, as such, Rajasthani miniature painting doesn't have much to do with the, directly at least, with the modern Indian art. But certainly, when Bengal school was emerging as a counterpoint to the British colonial art, many of these artists of Bengal school, they were looking at some of our traditional art models. For example, Mughal painting. Rajasthani painting was one such model, another model, from which they tried to derive forms, ideas, color, and even composition to create new paintings, modern paintings, of course, but definitely not following any Western model. Now, I would like to have any question, any query that the participants must be having. So please feel free to ask anything or share your comment. Yes, I am unmuted. The participants are not here on the Zoom. Probably they are on the YouTube, right?
One student named Anas Babu has joined the Zoom link, sir.
Okay, okay. So Anas Babu, if you have anything to ask, please feel free. You can unmute yourself and participate in the discussion. Anything that you feel like saying and contributing.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, what about exams? Is it objective or theoretical examination?
Mostly it will be objective, but we also have a couple of questions to be written as not very broad questions, but definitely not objective. I think they have 5 or 10 marks, so it won't be really broad questions, short answers, but again, certain things. For example, if you are asked that what are the salient features of Bengal school art? Let us say it has 10 marks. So really speaking, a 10 marks answer is not a broad answer, but definitely not objective. So therefore, you will have a few subjective questions as well.
Thanks.
Okay. One more thing I would like to draw your attention to, which I have done in more than one episodes in the course, that how modern art in India, besides drawing, painting, and sculpting, various subjects, issues, and themes having recognizable representational features like human beings, like landscapes, like various events, social events, political events, things like that. Beside all these things, how some of the artists, and that happened mostly from 1940s, they have tried, and there are still such artists in many numbers right now in India who do not go for clearly recognizable representational figures. They go for what we generally call abstract paintings. So this rise of abstract art seems to be another very important feature when we study the history of modern Indian art after 1940s, something that we don't see before 40s. There are a couple of artists who might have given it a thought or tried their hands at, but the full-fledged movement, art movements, people seriously thinking about it, artists seriously considering that abstract art can become a very important component of the history of modern Indian art. This becomes something very interesting to look at, to study, because all abstract art also doesn't look same. There are various kinds of abstract arts, both in painting and sculpture. But more or less, one thing that all abstract artists commonly shared amongst themselves, knowingly or unknowingly, is this, that their forms and features, they will not represent anything directly from life. For example, when we look at some of these abstract sculptures by Pradosh Dasgupta, when we look at many of those abstract paintings by Raza, the Bombay-based artists, we can clearly see that these artists, be it a sculptor or a painter, they want us, the viewers, to feel the life, to feel the energy of the basic elements which actually make art, be it line, color, shape, or if it is a sculpture, the volume, the texture, the rhythm, something that we have not been looking at because we were so immersed in representational art, figurative art. So this is something very brilliant, something great about modern Indian art, that we have both, even today, both kinds of artists. One who are still doing paintings and sculptures with clear figurative representations. And we also have a number of painters and sculptors today who go for abstract forms. So we have a question here from Mr. Urmi Broto Bandyopadhyay. Art galleries play an important role in bridging the gap between the artists and spectators. For example, Bhavanindranath Art Gallery at Rabindra Sadan, Jahangir Art Gallery, Mumbai. Exactly, Urmi Broto Bandyopadhyay, you're spot on. And this gallery, existence of gallery, not only to mount and showcase paintings, that is of course something very fundamental to the functioning of a gallery, but also to create a space which welcomes spectators across the board. Create a space where people not only come and see the artworks, but where people can come also meet the artists more often than not. To create a space which also gives rise to discourses on art. People can discuss, people can talk about, people can learn and share. And a very common feature of any gallery activity is to publish catalog, exhibition catalog. Because after all, exhibitions are temporal. They're time bound. Exhibitions get over, but the catalogs and the publications based on those exhibitions remain forever. And that is how we also get to know about many exhibitions which we never got an opportunity to see. We can see them through the catalogs. Of course, of late we have the online catalog system. And also we have a virtual tour through the gallery space. And we can have, may not be the original experience of looking at the works, but somewhat we can come very close to having an original experience of looking at the real works of art in the real gallery through this online mode. So if you look at the various websites of the galleries, just look at the Indian art galleries and their websites. It is a real feast for eyes that how seriously they develop their website, they design their websites in a way not only to provide us some experience of looking at these pictures, but also these websites provide us with a lot of information which help the spectators to develop their knowledge. Because there was a time when spectators were mostly either mute spectators or fleeting spectators or spectators which went to gallery as a time pass. Now that is over. From my experience, I can vouch for this, that I come across various kinds of spectators and viewers in different galleries across India who are not from art field, who are not artists, but they do show genuine interest, not only to look at art, but also to develop their own knowledge. In other words, we have a huge number of informed visitors today than we used to have before. And galleries nowadays, besides showcasing works, besides putting up paintings and installing sculptures and just organizing exhibitions, they're also doing more than that. That is, they are initiating projects, programs for public art education. This was also something which was not there before. Galleries creating spaces, times. In fact, 2 days back, I was also invited by a gallery in Shantiniketan, a new gallery which has come up. It's called Art Shila. And the first show that they're doing right now is a centenary show of the great artist Soumik. This is his centenary year. And in Sunday, I was asked to conduct an art appreciation session of Soumik's works for children. So you see, this has become something very common and very important. There was a time when I remember that when I was a student, some of my friends who were not from art field used to feel intimidated, as if gallery space was something which was not meant for them. But now it's the other way around. Gallery is welcoming more and more spectators, participants, and therefore creating spectator-friendly, viewers-friendly programs to generate more interest among them. So thank you for raising a very, very important question. So gallery as a space, gallery as an institution, gallery also as a publisher, publishing materials, either online or print, is very, very important now. Not only here, everywhere in the world. Thank you for raising this question. If there is anything else, I would like to. Okay then. So let me know when we can wind up. If there is, yeah, examination is on 24th of April. The date is already announced. So the participants, I guess, know all the participants. Now, as far as the examination is concerned, I have some examination tips for you. Number one, go through the lecture videos very carefully and listen to the information being provided, and also listen to the, not always, sometimes certain analytical details are also provided. For example, when it is said with regard to any work of art or any art movement, that look, here we see this particular artist in this art is not so much concerned with the subject matter. Subject matter could be something very simple and easy, but that artist is more concerned and more interested in exploring the medium and the material. Now, it will look very simple as a piece of information, but it is very crucial for us, the art historians, because we know that how these decisions, how these tendencies on part of the artist actually change the course of the history of modern art. So when I say that pay attention to the various information provided in the different lectures, I do not only mean that we need to only pay attention to the names and the places and the dates and all that, but I certainly mean that please pay attention to certain analysis, very basic analysis. We have not gone into very complex analysis that would have made this course very complicated, but we have tried to provide some very basic analytical details. So listen to the lectures, pay attention to the information, both the theoretical information as well as the data, different data is given of names and places and all that. And thirdly, very importantly, try to visually remember the different kinds of artworks. Here, when I say different kinds, I put the word kind in quote, because Indian art, I think this is something that I have said in maybe more than one of my video lectures, that Indian art is, modern Indian art is replete with a massive range of variations. If some artist is doing like this, the next artist is doing absolutely something very different. Now, these variations, the variety of artworks that artists are coming up with. I know it is not so easy to remember, but definitely it is not so difficult to at least respond and to say, yes, this art definitely looks different than the next one. And this and that. This art has come outside. When we look at all those huge outdoor sculpture, this is a very intimate art, it seems. If somebody is, for example, the artwork that you see right behind me as a virtual background, this is, many of you would recognize that this is an example of a painting from a set of works done by Nandalal Bose, and it is known as Haripura posters, and done for, not just for his pleasure or not for exhibition, done for Haripura Congress session way back in 1930s. That is why I say that it's very interesting to see that how modern India found itself in new locations, serving very different purposes now. So it's very important that you also, whenever it is said, pay attention to some of these details, and also feel free to make your own analysis in terms of your visual reaction and responses. That is important because as far as the objective questions are concerned, of course, we have to be very much data-based. It has to be accurate. But as far as the subjective questions are concerned, then if 3 people attempting the same question, then it is quite possible that all the 3 answers may not have exactly the same analysis, and it is absolutely okay. Because art is finally little subjective. Yes, Amalu Shaji says that the exam of visual perception art is also on the same date. So visual perception is on 23rd April. And this one is on 24th. So it is not on the same day. And we are having another session on visual perception, which is, I think, on schedule on 5th April. That is next Tuesday. I'm coming back in the same time for a session on visual perception. And Urmi Brutto says there are a lot of published books on paintings are there with replica in different historical periods. We don't find many replicas, but definitely there are a lot of published books, and there are a lot of online material these days also, Urmi Brutto. So if that is all, then we can wind up the session.
Yes, sir, we can end the session now, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable time.
Thank you, Gurli.
Right,
Thank
sir.
you, Neha.
Next week we will meet again, sir, for the another course.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Right, sir.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, sir. Thank you, Neha, for joining in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we will close now, sir.
Okay.
Bye, sir.